Welcome to the Modern Homesteading Podcast.
We have allowed ourselves to become so disconnected and ignorant about something that is as intimate as the food that we eat.
Be prepared to grow your own for victory.
God said, I need somebody strong enough to clear trees and heave bales, yet gentle enough to yean lambs and wean pigs and tend the pink-combed pullets who will stop his mower for an hour to splint the broken leg of a meadowlark. So God made a farmer.
Hello and welcome to the Modern Homesteading Podcast. I'm your host, Harold Thornborough. We've got another great show for you. And you might be wondering, has it been a week already? And no, it hasn't. We're dropping in a couple midweek shows this week and next week. And I'll just tell you what happened. Homesteaders are awesome. I jumped in our homestead front porch Facebook group and I said, hey, who wants to come on the podcast and talk about their homestead? And had a whole bunch of people take me up on the offer. And I said, this is awesome. So I don't want to make people wait. I've done several interviews and I just want to get them out there a little bit quicker. So this week and next week, for sure, we're going to have a couple extra episodes. So I hope you're excited about that. I'll tell you, I am really excited about this podcast in particular. I'm going to be joined by Ariel Gunn. And Ariel's going to tell us about her homestead and what makes her a little different than the last couple we did is that she's in the Suburbs homesteading. And she's doing a lot of neat stuff. And I think she wondered if she had really much to offer since she's not been doing it a long time and she's on a small urban homestead. But I'll tell you, I think she does because a lot of people are in the same situation she's in as far as limited on space, limited on land, working full-time job. And still, she's doing it. And I think you'll be inspired by what she's doing, and it'll make you realize that you can do it too. So let's just jump right into that interview with Ariel. Today I'm joined by Ariel Gunn. Ariel is an urban homesteader in Texas who is taking steps towards self-sufficiency right where she is. Ariel, welcome to the Modern Homesteading Podcast.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be talking with you.
Well, I'm really excited to talk to you. I'm just dying to hear how you got started down the path of homesteading. And I was just wondering if you could just take a couple minutes and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started.
Okay. So my name is Ariel. I'm 35, and I live in a suburban area outside a major city in Texas. And how I got into urban homesteading is kind of just a lot of little things leading up to it, different paths all leading up to the main path. Mm-hmm. So first, I would say my first step was probably beekeeping. Mm-hmm. And that's just something that I've been wanting to do for, at least 10 years. So let me take a step back. I have an 8-to-5 desk job, and I just kind of started taking stock of things and wondering if this was going to be it. I just sit at a desk every day, all day, and go home, and then I retire and when I'm old, and that's all. Mm-hmm. So I started thinking, no one's going to help me make anything out of this life except for me. I'm my option. I'm my only hero to this story. Mm-hmm. So what can we do to make things better? And so I asked myself, well, what do you want to do? Something I wanted to do for a very long time was keep bees. And so I decided, all right, we're doing it. I'm doing it. Here we go. And started jumping in. And then as soon as I did, pieces of the puzzle started coming together. I met my cousin's boyfriend, husband-to-be, at a family gathering, and then turns out he keeps bees. So I asked him to be my mentor, and he agreed and started me out with a couple of nukes, and I began that journey. So that felt great to make that happen. And then, it kind of gave me confidence to start moving on some other ideas. One thing that I had been wanting to do was keep chickens. Mm-hmm. And, it sounds fun and everything like that, but also I'm a vegetarian. And so I felt ethically conflicted about participating in the egg industry. I exited from the meat industry, and it felt hypocritical to continue to participate in the egg industry. And I said, well, okay, there's really no reason that I couldn't take this into my own hands and there's another way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And in the spirit of self-sufficiency, there's no reason that I couldn't take this on. And so I looked into, what does my city allow, and started researching, started getting on some podcasts and learning how to care for chickens.
Mm-hmm.
And I got some girls. And so now I have 5 layers, and I love them. They're so fun. And then I've always been into gardening. I always kept herbs and flowers and so forth. My mom and my mom's mom and my aunt raised me to garden and to, love to grow and nurture.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've continued with that. I have a lot of herbs, and I actually started a community herb garden this year. And so that's been really rewarding as well, like being able to teach people when they ask me, what's that? And I can't believe that was so easy to grow, and I can help them learn how.
Mm-hmm.
And and then I've added vegetables this year a little bit, a couple of raised beds, and started composting. So I'm just sort of trying to add in one thing at a time,
Sure.
get better at it, get more confidence.
Okay. Well, I have all kinds of questions about each one of those things.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll just start back at the beginning on this. First of all, how much property are you on? You're in the city, right? You're in the city limits.
Yeah. It's not big. It's just a little, a little normal sized house. I have a small backyard.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very big.
Yeah.
I have a little porch and then a little backyard, but it's enough to fit raised beds and a run and a coop.
Neighbors really close
dogs
to your property? I mean.
Yeah, they are close.
That's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering how the bees fit in with close neighbors. Is that a problem at all? Or, I mean, is how you have them set up, that isn't a problem?
I have them on the side yard, and when I work the hives, they do get pretty active around there. So I try to do it at times when I know that my neighbors are not outside. But other than that, they cause no problem at all. Their flying pattern goes straight over the roof.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that I try to allow them an entrance down the chute of the side yard that didn't go to where they would not have to go into the yards of the neighbors. I mean, I just kind of did the best I could.
Sure. Yeah. And you have 2 hives, you say?
I started with 2 hives. Over this last year, they kind of combined. One hive just never really got strong. It was always pretty weak.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't winter well. And then in the springtime, the stronger hive robbed the weaker one. And so it kind of just combined into one big one. So that's what I've got right now.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that?
A year.
Okay. So you're still learning. I mean, of course, I talk to people who've been handling bees for 5 or 6 years, and they say they're still learning too. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a slow process. I mean, I think, like you said, I'll be doing it for years, and I'll never, I don't know if I'll ever consider myself a pro.
Yeah. Well, now you have the chickens too. I mean, they're probably pretty close to the beehives as well, right?
Yeah, I don't allow them in the side yard. I try not to let them over that way. I figure they'll actually might be interested in eating them.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. Chasing them around, yeah.
Yeah, but the chickens just kind of stay in the main backyard area.
Okay. Now, you being in the city limits, you said you checked out the laws and such, and how many chickens are you allowed to have in your area?
I'm allowed to have 4, but you may have noticed I said I have 5.
Yeah. Probably no roosters too, I would imagine, right?
Oh no, we can't have roosters, but we are allowed bees and we are allowed 4 hens. Yeah,
I'm glad to see a lot of cities allowing that. I mean, even ones that weren't allowing chickens, and a lot of them are waking up to and allowing people to have a few chickens and even some goats and bees and all kinds of things. And I'm excited to see that. And there's still a lot of communities that haven't woken up to that and still have restrictions where there's just nothing allowed, no kind of animals at all.
It's true. We have some neighboring communities that and that I'm on their Facebook pages and so forth that are pushing their legislature to allow chickens, making really big pushes for it, and they're getting closer.
Sure, yeah. It's never made sense to me. Why not? I mean, I've really never understood those laws. Really, I mean, I guess there's always people who will abuse it and take it to an extreme, but I mean, most of them that make the law, they just say have so many and no roosters and things like that, and it solves that problem.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really eager to hear about well, your garden and the community aspect of that too. Let's start with your raised beds. What kind of things do you grow in your raised beds?
Well, this was the first year that I did raised beds. So I started out kind of easy. I did, tomatoes, that's easy. And then some cabbages, lettuces, and peppers and broccoli, some easier ones to grow, and onions, green onions.
Okay, yeah.
So I just started out simple. I mean, all of these things take a lot of practice and patience, and adding so many things at once, I don't want to get overwhelmed.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So,
one thing at a time, yeah. That's I've told many people that, just do what you can do when you can do it, and then just take on one new thing at a time after you're comfortable with what you're already doing. Yeah, sure.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because I've seen several people just get completely overwhelmed, and I've seen some people just give up because they were so overwhelmed and say, well, that's just too much work for me. Yeah. Well, how about the community aspect? I mean, you say you started a community herb garden. Is that what you said?
Yes. So, in addition to my full-time job, I also have started a part-time job as a yoga teacher, as a yoga instructor. And at my studio, there was this small, sad little plot of land. It's like 13 feet long by 9 feet across. And it just had some sad little cactuses that were dying in it. And I asked about it to the studio owner. She asked the landlord, and the landlord was fine with the idea of me taking it over as an herb garden. And so I did. And so I grow, I mean, it's packed full. I made like an herb spiral. I tried my hand at that, and it turned out pretty good looking. And I've got lemongrass, different kinds of basil. I've got echinacea, mint, lavender, sage, oregano, thyme, lemon verbena, parsley, all kinds of fun stuff. And the response has been huge. People love it. And we're going to have a harvest day here soon for fall harvest. It's still, it's still just getting cold down here.
And how does the community tie into that? Do they come and help you plant it and harvest it? I mean, did they do real active in all parts of the garden, or?
I would not say all parts, no. I've planted it and I tend it, but proceeds will be shared. And then, and it, it's in its first year as well. And so just gaining interest in all of it now. I've gotten some offers to help me plant next year. And so, it's going to become more integrated in all parts.
Okay. What motivated you to want to take it to the community and do something there instead of your own backyard? Well,
and I grow almost all of those herbs in my own backyard as well. But, the yoga aspect, actually, there's a portion of yoga called Ayurveda, and that has a lot to do with preventative health care and what you are, what you eat, and what goes in your body matters. And they treat a lot with herbs, proactively. And so it was kind of to support that, draw attention to that, and show people how easy it is to grow this yourself. Look here, I planted it. It's 6 months later. This garden looks, it's huge. It looks so much bigger than it did when it started. And I just wanted people to know that it's within your grasp.
Sure. So just get people down a path of healthy living and self-sufficiency and a little bit of everything in that. Sure. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. That's something I found with a lot of homesteaders. It's like very few that I meet. Sometimes they're accused of being hoarders and trying to do things themselves and not wanting to tie into the community, but that's just not the case. Most of them I've met are really active in wanting to help others to be healthy, to eat healthy, to know how to live in a way that where you're not just dependent on a system or something to completely take care of you. You learn to take care of yourself. You learn to eat healthier and those things. And most homesteaders have that kind of heart, and I love seeing that. And I just when I heard that you were doing a community garden, I just knew that's where you were going to go with it. I've seen that over and over and over, and it's just never enough to just do it ourselves. We want to help others do it as well. And I find that, here, it's like I'm always trying to reach out to the neighbors and neighbors' kids and, come in here and try these tomatoes, and just get them hooked on fresh food and eating healthy, So.
That's great. I think it's a certain type of person that's drawn to homesteading in the first place. So I'm not surprised that you keep running into that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, So you're doing what you're doing now. I mean, what are your plans for the future? You mentioned you're going to do some composting, and what other things you're looking at doing?
I started composting this year, but I'm definitely going to expand that a little bit more next year. Mm-hmm. Some of the things that I want to do next year, I've got a lot of plans to up my garden game. So we're going to add some more raised beds, lots more vegetables. I want to add berries, a couple different kinds of berries. I'd love to plant a couple of fruit and nut trees. I have a couple of fruit trees that have just started bearing, but, and that's long-term plans, but we got to get them in the ground sometime.
Sure.
And then I'd like to expand my hives a little bit more. Like you said, I do have concern for the neighbors, but I'd like to get back to having 2, maybe 3 hives.
Sure.
I've gotten a rain barrel that I need to get set up in place, and I want to start conserving water using that rainwater rather than always depending on the city water. And I'm going to take a canning course. I think that's an obvious next step for me is to learn how to preserve that food that I grow. And I thought about trying to self-teach, and then it just made a lot more sense to take a course where all the information is gathered in one place and it's from a trusted source. So I've got that planned, and then I want to look into fermenting.
Sure.
And so those are some next year steps. I mean, longer term, I'd like to learn how to forage. I want to get more into herbalism. And then, you never know. But yeah, those are some upcoming things.
Sure. Yeah. I'm surprised you didn't mention dehydrating in there with the herbs. I would think that would be a major preservation method for the herbs.
Yeah, I definitely want to do that too.
Yeah, I figured. How about when you now you mentioned like fermenting and things. Do you do anything special for your chickens' feed like that, like sprouting or fermenting their food or anything?
That is next step.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
Yeah. I've been listening to a couple of podcasts on how to ferment, and so I'm just going to read up on it a little bit more and then get going.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and a lot healthier for the chickens and their eggs.
I've heard they lay a lot better. When they're eating fermented food.
Sure. Well, it sounds like you got all kinds of things going on there on a little urban homestead. Are you pretty satisfied with where you live? And because what I find some people always thinking bigger. They're always saying, well, I don't want to start homesteading until I can get on a place where I got several acres. But then what I find out is when I hear people that have a really well-functioning urban homestead, and they actually find that there's a lot of things they can continue to add right where they're at without ever upgrading. And I just wonder, do you feel that way? I mean, you feel like there's a lot you can do right where you're at?
I 100% feel that way. And I'm so glad that I've started now. And for the people that are thinking that they don't want to start until they're on some land, I think that you've mentioned this before, but why not start to learn these skills ahead of time so that you're practiced and you don't have everything thrown at you at once you get the land.
Sure.
If you already know how to do some of these things, then you'll be set to learn the bigger ones, like, I don't know, fencing and stuff like that you have to learn when you're on a large property. You'd be all the more prepared if you started small. And right now, I don't have a plot of land I've picked out somewhere. There's a lot I can do right here, and I'm having a lot of fun learning it, a lot of fun doing it, and I feel very satisfied.
Yeah, I find that as well. Sometimes if you can get people to start right where they are, they just find there's so much they can do that it's hard to even imagine taking on much more, because there's just so much you can do right there to keep you busy, and you can really supply a lot of your food, especially for somebody in where you're at who's a vegetarian. You can really supply a lot of your food right there on a small piece of land. I mean, you're not raising livestock or anything for meat, so it's an urban homestead, it could really supply a lot of your food for sure. Yeah, that's great.
I'm definitely finding I'm going to the grocery store less, even with just a few things that I'm growing. And then between that and the chicken eggs. Yeah.
Now, is where you're at, I don't know if you have a lot of rainfall. You're talking about setting up a water catchment system off your roof. Do you find that, are you just trying to get away from the city use of water, or is there a water shortage in your area or anything like that?
We go under water restrictions every summer. there's not a lot of water rainfall, especially in the summer. It can get up to 108 and so forth here. So I think that, then you're not allowed to water your garden except by hand.
Right.
And so if I have the rain catchment systems, that will help. I can attach soaker hoses, and things will be happier and healthier throughout those hard summers.
What's your plan for putting one of those up? Do you have an idea of how you're going to install that? I mean, you use IBC tanks, barrels? You have an idea of that?
Yes, I purchased one rain barrel so far, and so I need to get the attachments for the downspout for the gutters, and I'd like to get a second one. Just place them at separate areas around the house, maybe 3, and get those started. And of course, I listened to your episode on rainwater catchment system.
Sure, yeah.
So kind of got some tips on how to get that set up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's doing it yourself. It's not real hard. I mean, you're catching rain. I mean, how difficult does it have to be, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a great thing to have on your homestead. So yeah, I'm glad to hear you're doing that. And for what you're watering, and for a small yard, a couple barrels would probably be real good for those times in those drier seasons for sure. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've got a lot going on there for a small place, and I get excited when I talk to. I mean, I love to talk to people who have 100 acres or 50 acres or whatever. But when I hear about people doing it on a city lot, I always get excited because, well, that's where I'm at, actually. I'm on a small urban lot, and we're doing a lot here. Of course, we do some livestock in the garden, but I don't have bees, and I was thrilled to talk to you about that because I can think about that for my neighbors. I was like, I don't know, I don't know if I want my bees flying around, but they're out there anyway, so it isn't like they're they're really getting in anybody's face. But yeah, it's something I've thought about, and I was curious to how that was working out on your small yard and with close neighbors. But
well, knock on wood, so far so good.
Well, it's legal. I mean, there's really nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, you want peace with your neighbors, but in the end, you're not breaking any laws. So.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I did put it on the side without the children. The children are on the other side of the house.
Yeah. I know. Here in our town, we're allowed to have them, but I know one person that has them, and they did make them put some sections of privacy fence around them, so nobody could bump into them or anything. They had, which I thought was a good idea, to keep people from getting up against them or anything like that. And
well, absolutely.
Yeah,
mine is surrounded by fencing.
Yeah. So if you got that, I think it's safe, and it's just really good for your garden, and it's just good for everybody else around there too. Anybody that's planting anything, flowers and trees, and now. When you mentioned trees earlier, you wanted to plant some trees in your yard. It made me think about your the community garden you have going on. Is there an opportunity to maybe plant some fruit trees in your community garden?
I planted a tiny bay, which can turn into a large tree eventually. But yes, I have been thinking about putting in at least one tree. I think that they would be fine with that. I'll double check, but.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's there's a lot of food produced with a tree, that's for sure, with a fruit tree. And that's a great way to really get people on board and seeing how much food can be produced in a small space, for sure.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I was kind of curious about that, but yeah, how big is the community area you're working with? How big of a lot was it? I don't know if you mentioned it or not.
It is 13 feet long by 9 feet across the top, 13 feet on the other side, and then 1 foot across the bottom. So it's kind of a triangle.
Oh, so it's a pretty small community garden then, huh?
Oh yeah. The whole garden is a 13-foot long area, but I just included a herb spiral in the center of it.
Okay, I got you now. Yeah, so just a small area to work with. There's probably a lot of room to plant some trees there then.
Oh, we can put a tree. Yeah.
Yeah, we could. You got one there so far, you said?
Yeah.
You just got to be careful not to shade out your garden.
Yeah. I think it'd be fine. It's a real sunny area.
Yeah. Well, that's now you're more of a suburban area or urban area, did you say?
Yeah, it's a suburban area of just outside of Dallas, which is a huge city.
Yeah. Well, you got a good growing season down there and stuff. So, I mean, you could be able to grow really long growing season, so you'd be able to grow a lot of stuff. 2 or 3 plantings possibly a year, huh?
Yeah, we still in fall. I mean, things are still producing for me in fall. And like I said, it's just starting to cool off barely.
Yeah, I mean,
so we've got plenty of time still.
I know you guys get an occasional ice storm in winter or whatever, but you have some pretty mild winters for the most part. But yeah, I was down there once in an ice storm, so I know you get them.
We do, but probably nothing like where you are.
No, yeah, there's nothing like up here. I'm in Indiana, so it's my least favorite part about Indiana, but I guess it's part of it. I mean, the seasons are healthy. I like that. I mean, having 4 seasons is nice and healthy, but it's hard to get around sometimes, and you got to deal with a lot of stuff. But I still try to enjoy it, and Well, I mean, you've pretty much given folks some advice on getting started, but I mean, you have anything else you'd want to add to that?
I guess just some encouragement. I just think that if I can do this, I'm just a suburbanite working a full-time job. I also have a part-time job. I have other interests and things that I do. I have my family, and I'm making time and here and there to do this. And it's so fulfilling, so rewarding. And I think that if I can do it, that anybody can do it. And just to kind of reiterate what I said at the beginning, no one's going to come along and make your life better except for you. You're the one.
Sure.
If you want something to happen, sit down, write out what it is that you want, and then what are the steps that are going to get you there, and then start taking the steps.
Yeah. Well, I've found that there are people who will come along and do things for you, but it comes at a cost. That's for sure. You don't want to pay that price. It's much better if you can do it yourself. So, well, I think that's great. I love what you're doing. I hope you keep up the great work. And, it's been really good talking to you. Is there any place we can reach out and get a hold of you if somebody wants to contact you or see what you're doing?
Sure. My Instagram handle is Urban Yogi Farmer.
Okay.
And then, other than that, I'm just on Facebook. I don't have a website or anything like that.
Sure, yeah, well, that's fine. You post some good pictures of your garden occasionally on your Instagram account?
Yeah, I haven't been on Instagram too terribly long. So right now, you're just going to see some cute chicken pictures and some of my bees, and we'll get some garden ones on there too. Yeah.
Well, it's been good talking to you, and I'm really glad you came on the podcast today. Like I said, I get excited talking to urban homesteaders like me because when people ask me, it's like, who are you trying to reach with this podcast? Well, I'm trying to reach anybody that that's trying to make a go at self-sufficiency or trying to convince them to do so. But it just excites me when I hear somebody just saying, I'm going to do this right where I'm at. I don't have a lot of land, but I can grow something. I can raise some chickens. I can do something right where I'm at. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big encouragement to those out there who just keep putting it off just because they don't have a lot of land, like I did for so many years. There was 20 years where I kept thinking one day I'm going to get a place out in the country, and I just, I finally just woke up the hard way and said, got to do this right where I'm at, and I've been amazed at what you can do right where you're at. And I want to see more people go down that path and realize the potential of what they have already. So I think it's just an inspiration to talk to you and hear what you're doing.
Well, I would just like to take a second to acknowledge you and say that I think what you're doing is amazing. You're bringing so much encouragement and support to people like me that want to get started and need to know how. And I've found your podcast to be really inspirational, and I just want to say thank you for all that you do for us.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that, and I hope some others are being inspired by it. And I've got a few of these podcasts where we'll be talking to other homesteaders, and I just know I think a lot of people are going to find a lot of inspiration from other folks doing it, and realizing that maybe I think part of a community aspect is just when you see other people doing it, it makes you realize you can do it too. And what you're doing with your little community garden, and I think that's going to wake some people up and take them down a path of healthy eating and self-sufficiency, and appreciate it so much. And I'm glad you came on the podcast today.
Okay, thanks. Nice to talk with you, Harold.
It was good talking with you too. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview. I know I did. She said a couple times there, no one's going to do this for you. You just got to do it. And, I agree with that. If you want it, you got to do it. But here's the thing. You got to know you can do it. And I hope that's what these podcasts are doing for you. I hope they're making you realize that, look, these people are just like me. And if they can do it, I can do it. Henry Ford once said, if you think you can do a thing or think you can't do a thing, you're right. So I want you to understand that, I think you can do it. Matter of fact, I know you can do it. But none of that matters if you don't think you can do it. And I hope that's what these podcasts are helping you with. I hope they're helping you to realize that you can do this thing. And, I hope you'll check out Ariel's Instagram page there and follow her on Instagram. And also hope you'll jump over to the Homestead Front Porch Facebook group. Just go into Facebook and search for Homestead Front Porch. It's a closed group, but all you have to do to join is ask. And Ariel and all these other folks that we're doing interviews with over these next few days and have done interviews with are in there and real contributors to the group. And if you have some questions or you just want to jump in there and have conversations and talk about homesteading or just make friends in there, it's a great group, and I know you'll enjoy it. So, hey, hope you enjoyed this, and until the next episode, happy homesteading, and God bless.
Thanks for listening. To see the show notes for this podcast or listen to other podcast episodes, go to smalltownhomestead.com. There you can also read our blog, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, and take advantage of the many resources we make available to help you along in your homesteading journey. Please share this podcast and help us to carry out our mission of helping others to homestead today for a better tomorrow.